In his work Symbolic, Exchange and Death, Baudrillard traces the evolution of three distinct orders of simulacra that have emerged since the Renaissance period: the counterfeit during the early modern era, production during the industrial age, and simulation within our contemporary society governed by codes and systems. These three stages of simulacra development are underpinned by different value laws. Initially, a natural law of value, then a market oriented law of value, and finally, a structural law of value. The genesis of the modern sign, embodied in the counterfeit, coincided with the erosion of the feudal order by the rise of the bourgeois. In this phase, signs were clearly defined and are restrictive, their circulation dictated by a rigid hierarchy. The early modern era marked the advent of the arbitrary sign, liberating it from the constraints and enabling participation across all social classes in a competitive democratic manner. The sign assumed the role of a simulacrum, mirroring natural value. In the present day, reality has melded into hyperrealism, an intricate replication of the real world. This is accomplished through an objective perspective that has severed itself from the object, resulting in a detached, objective vantage point. Reality is now identified by its replicability. Consequently, we are now immersed in the illusion of reality, living within the realm of aesthetic hallucination. This signifies the complete transition of reality into the realm of play. It signifies the termination of metaphysics and inaugurates the era of hyperreality. Art, in this context, can no longer mirror, satirize, or maintain distance from reality. Art has become omnipresent as artificial constructs have infiltrated the essence of reality. In our current landscape, reality is both manufactured and presented as itself, blurring the line between authenticity and imitation. In this work, Baudrillard also introduces his own terminology, shifting away from Marxist concepts like use value and exchange value, and instead employing symbolic exchange and commodity exchange. He challenges the notion that capitalism is solely a mode of production, asserting that it functions as a system of codes grounded in the relationship between a commodity's value and the labor power required for its production. Baudrillard's insight reveals that as capitalism advances, it erodes the distinctions between economic base and superstructure, as well as between capital and labor. The value of law extends beyond economics, infiltrating cultural dimensions. The realm of signification governs the tempo of both economic and ideological domains. Mike Kane highlights that within Baudrillard's analysis, the symbolic order within capitalism almost supplants the concept of social infrastructure. Baudrillard's emphasis on symbolic exchange displaces the Marxist emphasis on the economy as the sole driver of social and political transformation. Symbolic exchange contrasts cultural and human values with the utilitarian and profit centered values of the bourgeoisie. This concept draws from Bataille's idea that capitalism's focus on production and accumulation clashes with our fundamental tendencies toward expenditure, sacrifice, and destruction. Through the notion of symbolic exchange, Baudrillard identifies a realm of human activity that transcends capitalism's reductionist ethos. Baudrillard draws upon the concept of the gift initially expounded for primitive societies by French sociologist Marcel Mauss. When a gift is bestowed, it carries an essence of the giver's identity and status, leading the recipient to feel obliged to reciprocate. Additionally, he taps into Saussure's notion of anagrams, which exist as a linguistic facet. Anagrams defy grammatical norms and create unforeseen correspondences and effects. From these, Mauss Saussure, and Freud's death drive, Baudrillard discerns a core principle, reversibility. This principle encapsulates the reversibility of the gift through a counter gift and the reciprocal transformation of life into death through an anagrammatic lens. Death signifies the dissolution of definiteness due to the demand for reversibility. Baudrillard argues that this reversibility is inimical to systems, coherence, and identity. He attributes this phenomenon to symbolic exchange. Saussure saw a signifier connected to a specific signified possessing structural value related to other signifiers within a system. This mirrors Marx's analysis of a commodity's value based on use and exchange as articulated in the law of value. A commodity holds a unique utility or reference but can be traded for various other items or currency. Yet, a revolution has appended this classical economic notion of value. Now, the referential worth of a sign or commodity is obliterated, replaced by an autonomous structural value within the realm of signs or other commodities. The worth of a commodity no longer hinges on its practical use, just as a sign's value is not rooted in the concept it signifies. Instead, it is determined by its place within the sign system. In this emerging phase, value emerges from simulation. Signs trade amongst themselves, detached from any definite equivalence with reality. This transformation is mirrored in labor power and production. The absence of a production goal enables production to serve as a code. Consequently, money, signs, needs, and labor exist in an incessant interchangeability. The shift is from the commodity law of value to the structure law of value, wherein hyperreality and the code engulf reality. The era of reality simulation is heralded by this absolute mutual interchangeability. Traditional humanist value criteria and the entire framework of moral, aesthetic, and practical judgment fade within our realm of images and signs. Uncertainty blankets everything, an effect of the code's supremacy. This uncertainty extends even to the economic foundation, no longer exclusively dictating realms such as culture, art, and politics. In this novel arrangement, capitalism is no longer a mode of production but a mode of dominance. The structural law of value represents the purest form of control. It's no longer tied to a specific class or power dynamic, but absorbed entirely into the signs enveloping us. This law operates ubiquitously in the code, where capital communicates its most refined discourses. The bedrock principle of this society is not exploitation, but the code of normality.